Hello, good afternoon, good morning to people in Europe. So I know there's different time zones, and good evening to Australians. And we are very excited at Natural Remedies to conduct this webinar on decoding cognitive longevity. And hi, Dr. Colleen, how are you?
Hi there. Good. How are you, Junkie?
I am good, thank you.
Thanks for having me today.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, honestly, working with you alongside while we were preparing, right, for this whole webinar. It's been such an amazing journey. So, yeah, thank you so much for accepting our request. And what we can do is we will wait for maybe just one more minute so that people can pour in and then we can kickstart.
Sounds good.
Well, about cognitive longevity, let's just have this chat. So, what is your attention span? Have you seen your attention span personally reduce or decline?
Are you asking me or our
Yes,
participants?
you. I think I can only chat with you right now.
Okay. So I definitely, as a scientist and an entrepreneur, I've actually had to organize my days
Mm-hmm.
and when I commit to work based on my attention span and when I am at my peak performance. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, my chronotype is that I'm an early bird. So
Oh,
I do best, I perform best in the morning.
okay.
So I try to schedule things that require a lot of memory, learning, and attention.
Ah, I
Morning.
see.
Mhm. Whenever I can. Of course, we have
Amazing.
multiple time zones to consider working globally, right? But
Yep. Yep.
I try to do that when I can.
Yes. Well, now that we have, the audience, and again, welcoming everyone to this amazing webinar with Dr. Colleen Draper. And today we are going to discuss an interesting topic, decoding cognitive longevity, add life to years. Now, why add life to years? As we age, the chronological years, the age is always going to be added in our life, right? But then when we remember things, when we rejoice a memory or we learn something new, is when we add life to it. So in this particular webinar, we are going to discuss and uncover what cognitive longevity is all about. And we have this expert. So let me introduce Dr. Colleen Draper. She's a PhD RD and is a scientist, entrepreneur, and clinical dietitian specializing in nutrition systems biology, metabolic health, and gender dimorphism, trained in functional medicine and women's health. Wow. She holds extensive expertise in personalized nutrition, translational research, and genetic and clinical applications in metabolic and hormonal health. Welcome, Dr. Colleen. Thank you so much for doing this for us. The platform is all yours, so over to you.
Thank you, Janki. Thanks for the introduction. And wow, that's a lot of things. And I remember, a few decades ago when I started in clinical dietetics, working in the hospital setting, and we would be evaluating laboratory biomarkers and medical history in order to design nutrition remedies for our patients. And we never once talked about cognition as it or any biomarkers of cognition. And now, fast forward, now we get to talk about how we can actually improve our cognition throughout our lifespan so we can have a long, healthy life. So it is really cool to be a part of this movement and very nice to meet you all. I am curious where people are from that are on our webinar right now. If you have a minute, can you just type in the chat what country you're from or what state you're from? And also, are you a scientist, a formulator? a business person? Are you a budding entrepreneur looking for building the field of cognition, which I think is a very exciting place to be? I would love to see that. Let's see what people tell us about themselves.
Yep, let's wait. We'll wait for people to just type in. Guys, let us know where are you from? What do you do?
All right, and I'm going to keep going. You let me know if you see something interesting. All right, Junkie, just
Yes.
feel free to jump in. So, first, let's talk about what is cognition, right? Because we talk about that word, we don't really know what it means. When we talk about cognition, we're really talking about memory, learning, logical reasoning, perception, judgment. We're really looking at how well we can think and solve problems. And the goal then with cognitive longevity is really to preserve this capacity throughout your life stages. So consider this a new way of thinking and a new area where we can create more and interesting products that can help people as they go through their cognitive lifespan that we'll talk about. We actually have 86 billion neurons in our brain that interconnect and make trillions of connections to help us think, work, and go through life. And we have 86 billion glial cells, and these glial cells actually protect our neurons. So our brain span is really the time frame across our lifespan where we see that we reach moments of vulnerability in the way that we use our cognitive function. So early in our lives, we're looking at improving our learning and ensuring that we are taking care of any issues that we have with neurodiversity. What we do see is that there is an increase in synaptic density during the early years from around 0 to 5 years in children. And we actually tend to identify boys with neurodiversity around that 5 year mark on average. For girls, we tend to see that it happens much later in their lives because girls tend to actually mask their neurodiversity. So this is one area of vulnerability, important to understand because this is when we want to address it as early as possible. We move into adolescence, we're dealing with stress and mood changes related to hormones. Into our young adult years, we're concerned about cognitive performance. How much can I get done in a day? Am I doing good work? Can I be focused and attentive enough to do more, to earn enough money to support my family, to support myself? And then into midlife, we're dealing with aging changes. They're particularly profound for women. I talk about menopause as the extreme phenotype. That is, menopause lasts over 10 plus years, but it is a more extreme change in aging that occurs as a result of a decline in hormones. And then we go into our later years where we're really concerned about our memory maintaining or maybe even improving our memory. Let's start looking at that differently. And then also improving our motivation. It's something that we often lose in our later years. So cognitive decline is a growing global concern. And why? Because we've got an increased size of our aging population, right? People are living longer. And of course, people want to live better. We have over 2 billion people that are affected globally with issues with their cognitive decline. This is a large number, huh? And our average screen time is over 7 hours. The average attention span has decreased from 18 seconds to 8 seconds, which is less than that of a goldfish. So why is this happening from a technology point of view? Our use of technology is a big human experiment. And of course, as with anything, it depends on how much and how you use it, eat it, participate in it, drink it, right? And in this case, with digital media, what we do see is that there is a decrease in attention span, circadian disruption. Some people are increasingly isolated, staying behind their screens too long. Um, and also, we're more and more dependent on our digital devices. For example, I personally am very much dependent on my GPS, on my phone. Sometimes I kind of sit back and think, wait a second, Colleen, think about where you are going right now. Could you actually reason this out by yourself? So understanding where this is, it's important to be maybe a little more disciplined with these kind of uses of digital media is going to become increasingly important for us and already is really standing out. So let's talk about your brain's anatomy. Your brain actually is quite the machine, and it's great to take a minute and really appreciate this. Anything that we're trying to do for our bodies is affecting these cognitive domains in our brain. For example, our frontal lobe is responsible for executive function, and it helps us with decision making. This is where we're really making decisions to reach a goal. Our temporal lobe is responsible for our auditory memory. So we hear things and remember them in our temporal lobes. But what's important is that you've got this deep structure called the hippocampus. It's deep inside the brain. And this is where you consolidate your short-term experience and your long-term memory. So this is your most important domain in your brain, but it can't function without all the others. So this is really an important system. So how do these different domains interconnect? They interconnect through your neurotransmitters. So your neurotransmitters are your vital messengers. And acetylcholine is at the top for memory. This is very important for mental clarity and processing new information. Your neurotransmitters, dopamine that keeps you motivated, your serotonin that keeps you calm, and your norepinephrine that keeps you alert, all participate in creating the focus you need to build memory. And we have to take a second to highlight BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which actually supports all of your neurotransmitters to help them function, and it increases neurogenesis. So it actually increases the generation of new nerve cells. Unfortunately, as we age, our nerve cell actually decline. So we lose about 10% of our neurons gradually over time. This is the bad news. But the good news is that we can do something about it, because what is one of the most impactful things you can do to increase your BDNF, that is really, the behind the scenes leader to help your brain function? It's actually exercise. So if I was standing in front of you live, we could be doing some squats together, but don't hesitate if you're on this call. Do some squats. Increasing that lower leg muscle actually creates a chain effect of signals that tell your brain to make BDNF and will improve your cognition, literally on this webinar. We have nutrient precursors that support our neurotransmitters, amino acids, choline, which is from eggs and soy. And so we need to think about how we can actually construct a healthy diet and a healthy supplementation plan that will support our cognition. So I thought this was an interesting study to highlight for you today because, and maybe some of you on this webinar have worked with medical residents in the hospital setting, as I have, or maybe you are a doctor and you've seen this in real time, but you do really see the impact of loss of sleep in real time in the medical setting. In this case, they looked at surgery residents before and after 26-hour shift, and they saw a decline in executive function, an increase in inflammation, more impulsivity, and really just this much slower cognitive functioning. So, for sure, we need to make sure we're taking better care of our people that are actually paid to take care of us. So, on that note, I just want to take a break to do a poll question. So the question is, what is the reason of cognitive decline? According to you, what is the most overlooked reason of cognitive decline? Really curious what you think. We'll just take a little more time to wrap that up. Hey, how'd we do? We've got people from the US and from Italy here. Got some scientists from Italy. Hello, I'm in Switzerland. I'm not far from you. I know I have an American accent, but I actually live in Switzerland. So, oh, we've got France. Hello, France. Okay, let's see what our results are. Okay, according to you, what is the most overlooked reason of cognitive decline? And the winner is lifestyle habits and information overload coming in second there. Yeah, I think this all makes sense, right? Our lifestyle habits play such a huge role in our cognition. And in fact, this is not just something I'm saying from a practical perspective. We actually have tons of peer-reviewed literature that supports this fact. But we are all facing a situation of cognitive overload on a regular basis. So great. Let's continue. This graph to me really I found personally very helpful, having worked in stress for quite some time, not only being stressed, but working in the field of scientific stress. And we often look at how we can manage our stress, and we talk about the saber-toothed tiger that is constantly chasing us, but doesn't need to be any longer. We're actually built to actually deal with that, but in fact, we act like it's happening on a regular basis, and it's really not. And this is where we get in trouble, right? But we have to balance our stress with the joy. And sorry, there's just the small error here. Dopamine should be pointing to your optimum stress point. And the point there is that you want to find the place where experiencing stress gives you joy. So, for example, I have some stress giving this presentation today. I consider this positive stress because I really enjoy presenting on topics like cognition and how your brain works. So for me, it's stress and it's joy, and that's a good combination. And consider this, when plants get stressed, they make this thing called phytonutrients that we end up ingesting in order to get healthier. So there is this healthy stress point that we don't want to move past. When we have too much stress, we don't experience joy. We constantly deplete our adrenal system. What do we experience? We actually experience a adrenal burnout. It becomes hard to get out of bed. It becomes difficult to think. This is when we start deeply affecting our cognition. But you might notice this at your very stressful moments where you cannot attend to things, you cannot focus. It's harder to remember, and there's this increased risk of mind wandering. So you really want to make sure that you hone in on where your stress is optimal. So let's take a minute to talk about normal aging versus decline, okay? Because in fact, it is normal for your brain to age, for you to lose some neurons over time, and it takes a bit longer than to maybe recall a name. Maybe it's harder to multitask. Maybe you see this in your otherwise healthy elderly family members where they might even look at you, their loved one, and forget your name for a minute, right? And then it comes back. So that's considered normal aging. I would like to think that we can do many things to even really improve that experience based on what we know about diet, lifestyle, and environment. But then just to juxtapose that with cognitive decline, this is where we're looking at a trajectory towards dementia. And the most common form of dementia is, drumroll, Alzheimer's. So this is where people forget the names and they never come back. They can't multitask, they can't walk and talk at the same time anymore. They lose vocabulary. And this is very frustrating. So you do see these personality changes. So let's take a minute, though, when we're talking about aging, and now we're talking about midlife, that trajectory where you start really embracing your aging journey, right? And if you are female, then, and you're fortunate enough to have a nice long life, you're going to go through perimenopause to postmenopause, which is this 10+ year trajectory of what many women describe as chaos and what scientists describe as hormonal chaos, the variety of symptoms. But historically, we thought of menopause as hot flashes and maybe irritation. That was my kind of stereotype, to be honest, when I was very early in my life, younger than I am now. But in fact, menopause starts in the brain. And so if you're interested to learn more about this, there's a wonderful scientist named Lisa Mosconi who has done the research, which we see here, where she actually looked at the changes in the brain and how that impacts the experience of menopause. This is as a result of decreasing hormones, decreasing estrogen. The brain actually experiences a 30% decrease in energy usage. And guess what the primary energy nutrient of the brain is? It is glucose. So you don't need to eat glucose to have glucose in your brain, okay? This question has come up for me before, so let me just clarify. Your complex carbohydrates, your healthy fruits, even your vegetables, they have carbs that are broken down into glucose, and then that glucose is used for the brain for energy. And so we talked about your brain running on glucose, but is it possible for your brain to have diabetes? Now, more and more, we are seeing that Alzheimer's is really like brain diabetes, and you have twice the risk of developing Alzheimer's if you have diabetes, and you have twice the risk of developing Alzheimer's if you're a woman. What I want to point out to you here, because we're going to talk about cognitive reserve, investing in your cognition over time, is that this starts early in your early 30s. You have no idea if any of you are in your early 30s on this webinar today, you could be actually building up brain damage that will eventually turn into Alzheimer's. So we really want to look at how we can address cognitive function across our lifespan early enough that we can optimize it and have a good, healthy life. When we have sugar spikes, we have an insulin surge. When we have insulin surge, our brain glucose drops. And when this happens repeatedly over time, this is when we see damage. So I already mentioned to you, drum roll, the importance between the connection of exercise and brain and memory. So building your lower leg muscles will increase your BDNF. It has been showed in peer-reviewed literature to increase cognition. And the other exercise that's really important let me say, resistance training, also very good, is dancing. So dancing is one of the best ways to improve your brain plasticity, improve your structural connectivity, improve your cognitive function. So no matter how old you are, dance. I do that, actually. I do dance. So I feel really good about that now, knowing that I'm always improving my brain function when I'm dancing. So cognitive reserve is an investment, and it's just like a retirement account. I mean, you don't want to hit your aging years and realize that you don't have any money to support yourself, to continue your nice, long, healthy life. You want to do the same thing with your cognition. You invest in your cognition over time with good nutrition, Mediterranean diet, phytonutrients, omega-3s, with Bacomind. Okay, we're going to talk about Bacomind, which is a Bacopa monnieri Ayurvedic ingredient that also can facilitate this cognitive reserve and improve your cognitive function for a nice long brain life. So also sleep plays a huge role here. Good sleep hygiene. We will continue to see more and more emphasis in this space. Inadequate sleep, taking a whole night to study for an exam at the last minute. I know none of you did that in university, right? This actually shrinks your brain. It actually decreases your neurons. So sleep hygiene is an incredibly important piece of this, as well as hormone health management, social connections, and even making sure that you avoid neurotoxins like alcohol in excess, because these are the things that will chip away at your cognitive investment in your health. So brain supplement interest is on the rise. And when we talk about brain supplements, what we're really talking about are nootropics, okay? And what we see is that this is really gaining traction across the globe. There is increased interest in improving cognition and using additional nutrients that will support cognition. So this is not just about a healthy diet now. We want something that gives us the edge. Nootropics can be classified based on their mechanisms of action. They can support serotonin. They can support acetylcholine, dopamine, GABA. These are your neurotransmitters that you want to, at times, depending on your issues or the issues of your consumer audience, you want to upregulate, as well as impact nerve cell growth and even supporting stress resilience. They can be classified into memory and learning, mental energy and fatigue, focus and productivity, and stress and anxiety. And you're going to see actually Bacomind affects the majority of these categories. So so I am on at a good point. Sorry, I'm interrupting myself. I'm at a good point for a poll question. Can we take a pause here and do the next poll question? Okay, let's talk about attention span. According to you, what is your average attention span? Be honest. I'm really interested to see what people say. Just in this time of information, for inspiration, information overload. If you've completed it and you haven't told me where you're from, I would love to know what is your function? What country are you from? Cool. We have another person from France. Also a neighbor for me in Switzerland. Hi, welcome. Ah, Slovakia. Okay. Africa, UK. All right, just another 30 seconds. Let's see how you voted on attention span. How do you compare to a goldfish? All right, we got 10 to 15 minutes is the winner, and then less than 2 minutes and 2 to 10 minutes are quite similar. And then more than an hour is quite low. And I'm impressed, I have to say. Yes. And one of the things that you can do for attention span that is really helpful for your brain is that when you lose attention and you can't, like maybe you're task switching, take a minute, stand up, do some squats. I also personally have weights in another room. So I'll run in there and I'll do like one set of weights for each of the exercises that I prefer. And that actually helps kind of renew my BDNF and my acetylcholine. So great. Okay, let's continue to talk about Bacomind. It's actually a really amazing ingredient, and I feel really honored actually to present the work of the team to you because it has been conducted over 20 years. So Bacopa is the herb. Bacomind is the patented form of this herb by Natural Remedies. Bacopa monnieri is also known as Brahmi. It's a revered medicinal herb in Ayurveda, part of India's ancient healing system. It grows in the wetlands and marshy areas across India and Southeast Asia. And it's known for its nootropic and adaptogenic properties. It's a very well-known herb in Ayurvedic tradition. So what's special about Bacomind? Many things. And I had the honor of talking with the chief scientist who has worked on Bacomind for 20 years to really learn all about this. And it has been actually on the cognitive health market since 2005. It's been studied for 20 years in every way you can imagine, from the point of the active ingredients, ensuring that it is grown to optimize those active ingredients. It is extracted in a 20-to-1 ratio, ensuring that there is roughly similar amounts of those ingredients, not roughly, exactly, similar amounts of those ingredients in that extraction. And then 5 clinical studies have been conducted on Bacomind in humans, human clinical studies. One is a safety study. The other 4 have been conducted in both children and adults. And it is, in fact, certified to sell across the globe. So Bacomind is comprised of 9 bioactives. So that means that it actually influences multiple pathways in the brain. So this is not a single ingredient, single pathway scenario. We have 5 different bacosides that are most potent and most present in the Bacomind ingredient, and they influence our neuroprotection. They protect our brain from stress. They actually improve our oxidative status, so they have a very strong antioxidant effect, and even encourage neurotransmitter release that helps improve our memory and attention. And then we've got 4 different bioactives that are also found in slightly smaller amounts, but we see that they also have their own impact on microbiome, gut-brain axis, cerebral blood flow, and even influencing the changes in age-related brain function. So very cool. So we talked a little bit about this, Bacomind. I want to make sure I'm very clear. It actually influences memory, focus, attention, and recall. And it does this through increasing dendritic branchings that increases your brain's ability to connect and make memories, connect and focus. It protects our brain from oxidative stress, and it also increases not only choline, acetylcholine, but also dopamine, and supports serotonin. So amazing mechanisms of action. And what we really are proud about is that Bacomind can increase your cognitive age by 7 years. So wouldn't you like that? I know my mom, who is 85, would very much like that right now, to improve her cognitive age. So how do we know this? So in one of our clinical studies, which was a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial of 98 healthy participants over 55 years that received Bacomind at 300 milligrams per day for 12 weeks, we saw a significant treatment effect by measuring the auditory verbal learning test, the AVLT, pre and post intake. And that is how we actually can assess improvement in cognition. So the change was actually 4.8 points, and you can see this was a statistically significant change that we measured. So how does that translate to 7 years? Well, we know from the published literature that the normal annual learning decline is 0.7 points per year. So unfortunately, if we're not doing anything to help our cognitive health, we're going to be, going through our days actually decreasing our learning ability. But what if we didn't have to do that? What if we could have something, a plant, an ancient healing plant that actually supports our cognition so that we're not losing that learning ability? And so we did a calculation based on the results of the study and this known number from the published literature. And of course, then we get this cognitive age equivalent of 7 years. So we can say that we actually have 7 years of reverse cognitive age decline from taking Bacomind for only 12 weeks, which for me is very powerful. So there are over 100 formulations available globally that contain Bacomind. We have lots of nice feedback on these formulations that really people are really pleasantly surprised at these formulations really make a difference in their brain health. And I have to say, as much as there are already 100 formulations globally, there's plenty of opportunity to use this ingredient in new and different formulations as we go forward. So it's well studied, it's safe. Bacomind is patent protected. It is something you can really get behind if you're promoting a formulation for brain health because you've got the scientific data and the claims. I should say that there are approved claims globally. And what I actually mean by that is that Bacomind is approved as a drug in Australia and also in Brazil through Anvisa, in Canada. There are on-hold claims in Europe for Bacopa that can be used. And as you can see, there are plenty of clinical studies and there is plenty of scientific information available to make scientifically substantiated claims in the US, for example. More formulation examples. There are different ways you can make your formulas based on the audience that you are addressing. And I highly recommend you think about Bacomind as your hero ingredient, and then use additional ingredients that can also maybe help replete micronutrient status, for example, that can affect brain health, etc. Okay, wait a second, wait a second. We have a final poll question, please. Can we pause here? For our final poll. So the question is, would you like to book a meeting to learn more about Bacomind and get all of your burning questions answered? Um, we'd love to talk to you more, find out what we can do for you. It's such a cool ingredient. I would be really proud to have it in my formula. So let us know if you're interested in booking a meeting, and we can go from there. And if you haven't already done so, let me know where you're from and what you do. Yes, we have someone from Poland. We have someone from India. How many countries, right? I think that is one of the coolest things, is being able to work across the globe and get to meet people across the globe from different cultures, different health priorities, right? The different health priorities that we have based on the country we live in, the environment to which we are exposed. For example, unfortunately, more polluted environments decrease cognition. We can't all control that, but we can at least try to optimize our cognition with good diet, exercise, stress management, and some Bacomind. If you have questions, please start posting them. Let's see what we can answer now, and what we also can talk about further in a separate meeting. So would love to know what your burning questions are. Okay, but before the questions, I'm going to move right along here. And this is so fun. Can you test how your brain is aging? And to me, in my experience as a clinician, as a product formulator, people always, I personally always want to know how I can measure how I'm doing. Do I have anything to worry about? So I took both of these quizzes, and you should too. The Mind Crowd is particularly fun as it is a research study. I think that, do we have the QR code? Here you go. Here you go. Take your quiz. I did Mind Crowd, and my result was okay. It wasn't that I was unhappy with it, but then I became quite fascinated by looking at how I could improve my results in Mind Crowd. And I think that's a fun thing to do, and a good, strong consideration when you're building product offerings for the public, for the consumer. What can you offer them as a measurement tool, as a way to learn more about their cognition? So their experience using something like Bacomind becomes a more positive and more successful, because we know that cognition is a multifactorial scenario. So I want to thank you so much for your attention today. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about cognition and Bacomind as much as I've enjoyed talking to you about it. And I would love to hear from you what some of your questions are. And feel free to connect with me. That's my QR code for my LinkedIn. And I would love to keep in touch with you there. And you can find me in other places as well as I've listed. And please go ahead and scan the Bacomind QR code. Reach out to NutriCare and see what you can do with Bacomind in your work. I'm going to stop sharing and see what kind of questions we have. And I really want to thank you all for your attention today. Um, really so interesting to be talking about Ayurvedic um, ingredients like Bacomind. Hi, Junkie.
Hello, thank you so much for this. So we have two questions, Colleen. One is, will intake of Bacomine affect fasting blood sugar levels as well? That's the number
Ah,
one
okay.
question.
Really good question. Okay, because I know I talked about that in the importance of understanding glucose control in your brain. And that is really because cognition is a multifactorial physiologic scenario that you have to manage from all areas. There's not just one single solution. So in the case of Bacomine, it is not known to influence glucose levels. But if you are interested in creating a product, that actually helps cognition. And this is a hot topic for your consumer target population. You might look at how you can combine Bacomind because you only need 300 milligrams, which is just one capsule. How can you combine Bacomind with some ingredients that actually facilitate blood sugar control and maybe augment GLP-1? A whole other topic for another day. But I think there's some opportunity here because Bacomind does not have any known issues with conflict with other ingredients, that you could combine it with an ingredient that actually facilitates glucose control and have a pretty amazing product. Next question.
Yeah. So is it safe to take Bacomine without medical prescription? It's an ingredient, yes. But yeah,
Yeah.
of course, please take that.
Yes, it is safe, but I understand we do get these questions a lot when working with herbal ingredients. And Bacomine has had its safety studies conducted. It is considered safe. You don't need a doctor's prescription to take it, but I do recommend that when you are taking it and you're taking other medications, that you tell your doctor about this so that your doctor can also assess you as an individual and your unique physiology.
Yep, thank you for that. What is the duration of the cure with Bacomide, or rather the treatment with Bacomide?
Yeah, the duration. So Bacamind has been studied over 12 weeks, and what we see is an increasing effect over time. From 1 to 4 weeks, users of the ingredient will see an impact. At 12 weeks, we've been able to measure a very significant effect. And there's no problem with continuing to take it over time. There's no safety issue with that. Sometimes we have to consider that too with plants and herbals, but this is not an issue for Bacamind.
Awesome. I think that's that. And if there are any further questions, feel free to reach out to us directly at naturalremedieshumanhealth.com/Bacomind or on our LinkedIn, or just reach out to Dr. Colleen and we will, uh, you know, get back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Janki, for inviting me and working with me on this topic. It has been so fascinating and hope to hear from all of you soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Colleen. Thank you, everyone, for joining it.
Bye now.
Bye bye.